And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fair Rugby on Forever Sport. And it's very interesting times with the first sort of major big step towards the Autumn Nations series, which does kick off in about 2 weeks' time. Starting to become a bit of a reality with the Springboks naming a 26-man training squad, which will assemble in Stellenbosch on Sunday for a 3-day training camp before these players will then go and join their franchise teams or paid families basically, because none of the Japan-based players. So very interesting training squad, and a lot of people are very upset with it, as usual, because a lot of fan favorites not involved in the training squad itself. But I personally think it's quite a straightforward training squad, to be honest. The big news for me, for example, the big takeaway for me this morning is the fact that we actually have got we've got a date and a time. So the final squads will be announced for both the SAA and the Springbok team. They will be announced next week, Friday, 28th. I think it's 28th of October. Yeah, 28th of October, which means that we finally got a date. And so all the sort of speculation stuff like that. Players have got one last weekend. I mean, basically, I'm sure they've already picked. But all the speculation stuff like that will end next week Friday, because the squads will be announced and we will have clarity over exactly who is going to play. But before we look at the training squad, I'm going to put a little poll in the comments, and I'm going to sit there, say start a poll, and the big one I'm going to ask is, should Johan Person be in the training squad? Because he is in the training squad. Or does Johan Person deserve to be in the training squad? I think that's probably a better question. Deserve to be in the training squad? Yes or no? Right, there we go. That is the poll at the moment, stuff like that. Please do smash a like on the video, by the way. Also, a massive thank you, because I don't know if you guys have seen 20,000 subscribers, people. 20,000 subscribers. 20,000 people. In fact, a little more, actually. Are part of the channel now. We are officially over the 20K mark, which is some pretty big news for the channel. Super stoked about it. And yeah, I think it's we really wanted to make sure that we had hit it before the end of year tour, and we got lots of big things planned for the end of year tour. So it was really nice to be able to tick that box before all that starts and stuff like that. So a big thank you to you guys for making that possible, because at the end of the day, we are nothing without our viewers and our community. So we do work really hard to make sure that we can try and give you guys the best experience possible. Now, the big question is, or the big topic rather, the big topic of conversation, the controversy that is running all around Twitter, is the fact that the training squad has been announced. There is no Manie Liebach, there is no Evan Roos, there's no Frans Steyn, although that he will be involved in the squad next week Friday, basically been confirmed by Rassie Erasmus. So the nice thing is, by the way, is that the press conference will be up later, and it does feature Rassie Erasmus. He's back. The man is back. And with it comes, I mean, it's an hour-long press conference. Good luck trying to sit through the entire thing later. But I really try and do. I really do recommend it, because he does give us a lot of very good insight. That's the biggest thing when it comes to Rassie Erasmus. The man gives, he'll jump in and he'll say, listen, just to provide some context, this is why the decision's being made, this is why this is happening, stuff like that. So it's very cool that he is back, because yeah, he does give us a lot from that sort of perspective and stuff like that. But in terms of the squad, the training squad, this is the training squad that has been announced. And for me, there's no real surprise. I think if you've been paying attention, if you've been monitoring the squad, if you've been around the block, I think you look at the squad and you sit there going, it's kind of expected, to be honest. I don't think there's any players there who are a surprise in terms of, there's obviously no new selection, no new people back in the squad. Johan Person was already part of discussions and meetings and within the training squad during the Welsh series, for example. Before he went back to the Bulls, sort of ready to lead his preseason, he was working with the Boks anyway. I don't think that's a surprise at all. Before we sort of break it down, I'm going to give you a couple of updates about some of the other players and the Vraal situation as well. And obviously, you want to monitor Forever Rugby because we'll be posting clips, shorter clips on the press conference itself a bit later, so that you guys are very much up to scratch with what's going on in the Bok camp. But going through some of the comments, Sean Barnard, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Just Rock Up TV. Troy saying, congrats on the 20k subs. It's been great watching go from 100 subs to the legions that are now here. I love that word. The legions, the Forever Sports legions. Fiddler says, the PSTF 12, Evan Lewis is a joke. He's playing Kaka, and Lewis is playing amazing. Yeah, so you know, let's look at the squad, shall we? Where are the surprises here? Now, for me, the only new player in that squad, is SPRINGBOK, because he hasn't played for the Boks this year. But he didn't play for the Boks because he was injured and coming back from injury and stuff like that. So he's obviously back now in the Boks setup. He's playing at the Bulls, starting and stuff. So he is very much back on the radar there. And the other big sort of surprise selection or new call-up in inverted commas, Johan Cousins is officially part of a training squad. He was part of a lineman camps, I suppose. Wasn't really training with the Boks, stuff like that. So he wasn't running moves and the works and stuff like that. He is now officially part of the squad. The nice news there is Canan Moody is involved. He is still injured. He has been very much called up so they can monitor him, they can assess him, they can see what sort of situation is with him. But let's go sort of through the press release and can understand a few sort of logistical things, as well as getting sort of the brains trust that is the Springbok squad. Basically, this squad over here will assemble on Sunday in Stellenbosch for a 3-day training camp. And then these players will then return to the URC teams. And I think for the far as I'm concerned, they will be available for selection. So, yeah, Canan Moody is nursing a hamstring injury, it says here. The Springbok medical team will assess the extent of his injury and ahead of the Springbok announcement. The Springboks will play 4 tests, and the SA team coached by Zina Stick will play 2 midweek matches against Munster on Thursday, 10th of November, and Bristol Bears a week later on the 17th of November. The squads will be announced on Friday, 28th of October. The Boks squad will gather in Dublin on Sunday, the 30th of October. So those France-based players, for example, as well as the English-based players, will obviously meet up with the players departing from South Africa. They will all They will all meet up in Dublin on the 30th of October. The SAA players, an extra 20 SAA players, will depart a week later on Saturday, the 5th of November. And they will sort of begin their preparation for their clash against Munster, which is taking place in Cork. They will be joined by a couple of players after the Ireland match. They will be joined by a couple of sort of the fringe players in the Springbok squad who will form part of that SAA match 23. Nino Alva, speaking about the camp, said that there was a dual purpose for the camp. He said that some of them need valuable training time. For example, all the Japanese base players are not getting any matches at the moment. And he says that it's also good to be getting some Springbok players back into Springbok structures, the likes of SPRINGBOK, for example. He said, and I quote, "We are departing for the year-end tour next week Saturday, so it is vital that we get the players back into our structures and our usual training programs so that they are raring to go by the time we depart for Ireland. There are some players who didn't get much game time in the Castle Lager Rugby Championship and who will benefit immensely from the additional game time next week in the Vodacom United Rugby Championship, while it is important for the Japanese-based players to get back to national training. It may be a short camp, but we have clear objectives and we know what boxes we need to tick as we look to forward to what is going to be a challenging year-end tour. We are facing number 1 and number 2 teams in the world in Ireland and France, and then we line up against Italy and England, both of whom will test us to the limit. So the sooner we get into the swing of things, the better." We've also got confirmation the Japanese-based players will be available for the match against England, and drafting about as thank them. He said, "I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to the Japanese clubs for their cooperation and granting us permission to select the national players during their trade, planning their trade to Japan for the England test. We said from the start of the season that we need to use every opportunity to build momentum and squad depth with an eye on the World Cup next year, and that match plays a vital role in this process as England will enter the international spectacle as one of the top teams to watch. England and France-based players in the touring squad will be released to their respective clubs following the Italy test." So no Andre Esterhuizen, no Vincent Clark, no Chairman Yakani, for example, involved in that final test against England. That has been now confirmed. What's also been very much confirmed is that it looks very unlikely that Andre Pollard will play this November. He has had surgery, for example, and that has been confirmed by Jacques Niamba. So it looks like it's very unlikely. I think it's very much he's part of the rehab, part of the process, stuff like that. And while Jacques Niamba said sort of never say never, basically confirmed that it's very unlikely that he will play. But going to some of the comments, Vic saying Goosen will be just as effective as Frans Steyn was playing at 10. He's been terrible at 10 so far this season. He's just good at goal kicking. Josh Stewart saying, yes, he should. Players can only improve or sustain form with the game time. I always like your videos before even watching them. Super reliable when you earn it. Congrats on 20K. Thank you very much. Just where is Trevor? Yeah, so that squad has obviously got no English-based players and no France-based players because they can't just pop down to Stellenbosch for 3 days outside the international test window. So that is why they are not involved. However, they obviously all be. So this is a training squad. This is literally just for like a 3-day camp. It's basically all these Japanese-based players who are not currently playing rugby at the moment. You've got and then you've got the South African teams, and who are all back for next weekend. They're all at home, so they're all back after this weekend. So they are all jumping in and having a quick training camp. It means that some of the Japanese-based players can get not some game time, but some genuine training, get a couple of contact sessions, kind of get back into it. It would mean that some of the new players can get sort of alignment, stuff like that. So that's the sort of the purpose for what is a couple of day training camp. You likes of an Andre Esterhuis and Trevor Nyakane, they don't really need a training camp. They're playing Jasper Wiese, for example. They're playing Premiership top 14 rugby. They're playing at the highest level at the moment. They've all been part of the box setup. Obviously, if they were better in South Africa, then why wouldn't you want to have a couple of extra days? But first of all, we can't call them back. Like contractually, we're not allowed to call back these sort of players. They're not available outside the test window. Hang on, give me 2 seconds. Thanks. So it's again looking at the squad. I don't see any I don't see any surprises in the squad. I didn't expect to see Evan Roos in the squad. What we will see, and this is basically a promise, Evan Roos will start both SAA games. I have no doubt about that at all. Marlon Liebach will play both SAA games. I've got next to no doubt about that. Whether he starts with him on the bench, he will play both of those games. I think Dion Ferreira is going to play both those games as well. I think he might actually be starting hooker there. I think Ruan Nokia will be involved in that SAA squad. I think Intuka Kluna will be involved in that SAA squad. I don't know if we're going to see any Lions players. I mean, the only couple of Lions players who I think have maybe got themselves into the radar, something like Franco Horn, who started the season off very well. But I don't think there are too many players apart from Jordan Hendricks who were even really on their radar before the URC season started. But maybe we might see a couple of them involved in the SAA squad. Very interesting to see if we're going to see an RGS name on call up, for example. But this squad it's very straightforward. It really is very straightforward. Interesting that, I mean, the sort of maybe the surprise selections are some who are up there and maybe not a Ruan Nokia, for example. Pat de Klerk, Jaden Hendricks, I don't think that's surprising. No Grant Williams, no Herschel Yankees. Be interesting to see if both those players make the SAA squad or whether it'll just be Herschel. Or just be Grant Williams. I think Grant Williams is ahead of Herschel actually at the moment in the Springbok pecking order. So I don't think there are that many. I don't think there are that many players who. So I don't think there's too many surprises. But what are we saying here? What are we saying? Fiddler's saying that Springboks would lose to a well-coached Springbok A team. Sean says we need Marcel in this team. We won't have Dwayne or Visa. Agree. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna have Dwayne. I don't know if we're going to. He's the only one who is you are. I mean, yeah. So it says that we won't have England and France players. I don't know if we'll have Dwayne Vermeulen available for that last test. We won't have Jasper Wiese. That's been confirmed. But I don't know if we're going to have Dwayne. So for me, for example, Evan Lewis should be sitting there going, right, I'm going to get 2 SAA games, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to put those performances in. They're going to select me for that Springbok game against England. And you go knock the door down against England, and you bang, right. So he's going to get an opportunity. I think, again, people, before you sort of freak out, we will see lots of Evan Lewis this tour. I actually have no doubt about that. I'm pretty sure that right now, he's set to start both those SAA games. So he's not going to start against Ireland. Jasper Wiese will start against Ireland. Why wouldn't you start Jasper Wiese against Ireland? Same thing against France. But, for example, against Italy, you don't necessarily have to start Jasper Wiese. You could rest him. I think they should rest him, actually. I wouldn't. I would play Jasper Wiese for 2 tests. Obviously, we've only gone for 3 tests, but I would say, right, Jasper, run out against Ireland, run out against France, give me your all, go and take a week break before you go back to the Premiership, because that man's playing a stupid amount of rugby at the moment. So against Italy, for example, we can afford to rotate a little bit. And then you've got the England test where you have to rotate because you don't have any France-based or English-based players. So I think Andre Esterhuizen gets a game against Italy. I don't think he plays against Ireland and France. And it's a pity because I think he would have played against England had he had an opportunity. But I think Esterhuizen potentially starts at 12 for the SAA games as well. Also says, who will cover 13 for SA? Do you think? Oh, I tell you what. I wouldn't have said so a couple of months ago. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Henk Griffinbeek on the plane. And 50 of me very much backs the decision. 50 of me, but he is playing like a man possessed at the moment. He's starting at the Lions. He is looking. I mean, he's one of the best Lions players at the moment. He's looking proper, and he's played 310 minutes already at the highest level, and looked very, very comfortable. He also did play 102 minutes last season, so he's played 500 to 600 minutes of top level rugby, and for me, looked like part of the thing. So I do wonder if we might see Sachin Ngomazulu in the SAA squad. My only worry with Sachin Ngomazulu is he is coming back from a wrist injury. It looks like he's fine. So I don't think that's playing into it. But he is a year younger, for example, than Henk Griffinbeek. Henk Griffinbeek's already turned 21 to 22 next year. So he's actually older than Canan Moodie. But for example, Henk Griffinbeek has played 550 plus minutes of URC rugby. He's played, I think it's, whereas Sachin Ngomazulu has played less than 200 minutes of rugby at that sort of level. And again, if you want to go with it, then go for it. I mean, as I said, I don't think he'd be out of his depth. I just don't want to see him injured. I just get so worried seeing young players who are so new to this level being thrust into the thing. And I think the fact that Canan Moodie has not been starting that much for the Stormers, I think that they are all kind of on the same page, that they do want him to ease his way into this sort of level. And people use the Canan Moodie example. Canan Moodie played almost 1,000 minutes, by the way, of URC rugby last season. So by the time Canan Moodie was selected for the Springboks, he had already played 15 matches at the level below international rugby. So he had played almost 1,000 minutes at that level before he played for South Africa. Sachin Ngomazulu's played less than 200. He had one start in his career. In this sort of level. Henk Griffinbeek, for example, has played just about 500 minutes. So he's played almost more than twice as much as Sachin Ngomazulu, and is a year older. So I think we're going to see. I think we might see Henk Griffinbeek in that SA squad. Because I don't see any other 13s really putting their hand up. I think That's Springbok had started like a house on fire. But the Sharks, I think you might have seen him on the end of your tour, potentially in the SAA side. Lionel Poo could be around there, for example. I don't know. Francois Fenton now going to the Sharks. I'm interested to see if he gets himself onto the radar. I'd like to see Raymond Roulet. I'd like to see like a Raymond Roulet or Dylan Lates, being involved there. They're playing their rugby in France. The Springbok manager did say they're currently monitoring about 60 to 65 players of and we're going to see 54 of them announced next week Friday. For example, something like Winnesila Similani is so far away from the SAA squad all of a sudden. He's just not getting the game time at the Bulls and at so many different positions, stuff like that. He's just not had the start of the season he would have needed to get himself back into that sort of setup. Tian van den Berg says, do you think that if Midweek plays well for SAA, he could get a call up to the main international side? 100%, especially because there might be injuries. What was saying, SAA could be very interesting if they pick based on form and not solely on their plans to get answers from players. Why would SAA pick Discount Horn when they could get the man himself? Do you think we're going to get some overseas-based players for SAA? They're already there, basically like Tian Schoeman and Jan Serpentine. I just don't see. I mean, you're surprised if we see like a Tian Schoeman. I wouldn't be adverse to it, but I'd be surprised if we're going to see it. Antica says, so sick of this coaching staff. I hope SA loses every game on tour, and hopefully that'll be the end of Rusty and his little sidekick. Bring on Jake White, please. Person can't even make the Bulls side. Well, I mean, he's like Jake White's like favorite player, but yeah. Also, why are we bringing on Jake White when Ivan Van Rooyen is ahead of him on the UFC log? Bring in Ivan Van Rooyen, Oaks. That's the solution to the box. You should actually be coaching the SA side. Just Woke Up TV backing the Raymond Roulet and Dylan Lates shot. Yeah, I'd like to see. I'd be surprised though. Vic says when Vic starts for SAA and Simon on the bench. Tian van den Berg says Joey Mangard coach the box. I'm interested to see what happens to Joey actually, especially with Neil Powell now sort of like overseeing the entire sort of Shark setup. Vic says Jake White's killing Similani, playing him out of position, not the way to go. Alan says maybe so, but Jake don't have much to choose from. In fact, if Rusty and his sidekick goes, I'll be happy with any other coach, to be honest. Yeah, listen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news to you, but you're going to need to very much settle on the fact that Rassi Rasmussen and Jacques Niobal will be in the coaching box in a year's time in France. Like, it's going to happen. I can promise you most things. I don't have a lot, but I could probably put my net worth on the fact that they will be there at the World Cup unless he gets banned again. Maybe it's not out of the realms of possibility, to be honest. But, yeah, they're going to be there today. So, yeah, get used to them. Get used to them. But, yeah, so we will see a squad next week Friday. And the nice thing about this is now we get to start talking about it, isn't it? Now it's becoming real. Now we get to really start debating who should be in these squads. Where should these players be coming from and stuff like that, which is going to be a lot of fun. So the next week, all the live shows are back. We'll be live again tomorrow. We should be live again on Thursday as well. As on Friday, we're going to be doing the URC live preview, which is brought to you by BetCoza. We're going to be having a lot of free bets, stuff like that. So we have been a bit quiet in the last couple of days because we are doing a lot of our prep for the end of year tour and stuff like that. We've got a very important meeting for that tomorrow and stuff like a couple of things like that. We do have quite a lot of stuff in the wings. So that is why we have been a little bit quiet, but we will get back to our regular programming, and hopefully, we really want to nail the end of the tour and a couple of other exciting projects. If you're a cricket fan, watch out because the next day or two we will have something quite cool for you as well, and also some stuff for some footy coming in as well. But yeah, so we keep a lookout for the press conference. It should be up in the next hour or two. It is a very lengthy one though, so I'm warning you now. So we will be uploading clips on Forever Rugby, which will answer some of the more specific questions. Rassi Rasmus talks about France staying, talks about the playoff situation, talks about the Elton Yankee situation, talks about the Springbok women, talks about players involved at Worcester and Wasps. Yeah, there's a lot that they get through in that press conference. So I really do recommend watching it if you are yeah, if you do want some genuine insight on what's going on in that box setup, I really recommend you do go and watch that press conference. Try and watch as much as you can because there is a lot of good stuff in there. But yeah, we'll be back live tomorrow, so we'll see you guys then. Until then, please just smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much, people, and I'll chat to you guys all very soon.